I haven't been feeling like myself recently. I'd like to say that I'm naturally a very positive and motivated person. But with my state of mind making me want to be lazy and unproductive, it's harder for me to get back to that mindset. I've felt like this before, and what got me out of this limbo was looking back on my life. Looking back on happier times. Times when I was full of youthful wonder and curiosity. So this time, I remembered something special. I remembered a film I watched in 2010. My 9-year-old self was sitting in the living room of my childhood home. This moment is so vivid in my mind because I believe this film was one of, if not, the first to profoundly impact me and spark my interest in cinematic storytelling. This film was... Hear that music? That means the shit I just said was important. And we're talking about Halo stuff. Now, for those that just made it past the opening that was as cold as the opening to the final mission of Halo 3, the rest of this video will be just what you came here for. Halo! Anime! Explosions! Boom! Warthog! And sadness! Like I said, in 2010, Halo Legends was released. It's a collection of 7 short stories told throughout the Halo universe. 6 Japanese animation studios worked to bring this project to life, with Warner Brothers distributing the film. Which means Halo Legends is an anime movie. And probably the best anime. Alright, hear me out. I can honestly say that Halo Legends is a mixed bag. If I were to rank each story in a tier list, it would be... okay... meh... yes... alright... hell yeah! Fuck yeah! Dope... and... alright. And there's my ranking, so if you don't care what I have to say, make sure you hit that subscribe button on your way out the door. But the film's highs are very, very, very high. And what the project accomplished was remarkable. Now for those still tuned in, I'll be discussing my thoughts on each story from worst to best. So without further ado, here's why I'm right and you're wrong, and why you should stop sleeping on Halo Origins 1 is kind of boring. I'm sorry, but unless you're a Halo lore historian, you're just gonna feel like you're being lectured by Cortana for 10 minutes. Because, well, that's it. I think the cliff notes the story is about are interesting, but the story just isn't told in a very engaging way. Maybe to make us connect with the story you're trying to tell, create a main character or take a pre-existing character in the canon that we can relate to. Whether this character is Forerunner or human. We're shown glimpses of what life was like during the Forerunner's time in our galaxy, but not enough to make us care about their struggles against the Flood. They present the Flood as being the central conflict, but so much more happens that could have been fleshed out to really make the story fascinating. Nothing is said about the precursors and how they manipulated Mannequin bias, and all the mentions of the characters like the Master Builder Faber and Shaq S, and by this point I can sense your eyes are rolling in the back of your head because this story was clearly made for lore enthusiasts in mind that already knew this shit. My point is, this could have been much more than a college lecture, and this lullaby Cortana is telling Chief is making me want to really cryo-sleep too. I have not a lot to say about Origins 2. It has the same problems as Origins 1, with Cortana acting like I can't just look this stuff up on Google. But at least Origins 1 gave your casual gamer some insight on the Halo universe pre-games. Origins 2 is a 12-minute summary of what happens from ancient humanity to now in 2023. However, we already know this because we've played the fucking games! Let's be honest, no one with a sane brain has watched Halo Legends before playing any of the Bungie games. It's clear by these 2 stories that this film's target audience is for the gamers and lore aficionados. And hey, I'm not saying you can't watch this film before playing the games. But why would you? The story they are telling is wrong. Origins 2 states that humanity and the Covenant united for a brief time to vanquish the Flood. But that's not what happens! The Arbiter and the elites that followed him were the only part of the Covenant that assisted the humans in the Great War. By not playing the games, you won't realize how wrong this retelling is, and you'll be missing out on a lot more fun than just Blue Woman talking directly to you, the sleeping green man. But for what it's worth, I don't hate Origins 1 and 2. We were just robbed of what could have been. Finally, we got a story with characters I can connect with and root for. No. Yeah. So the package's characters are pretty weak. They're given no characterization at all, because I guess the writer didn't want to do his job and just relied on the people watching to do their own research about Frederick 104, Kelly 87, Arthur 79, and Solomon 69. As a kid, I didn't know who any of these people were, apart from Chief, and now I kinda know 2 of them. I guess I'm not supposed to care about who these people are, because the writer clearly doesn't care to give us enough characterization. But I digress. If you just want to turn your brain off and have some mindless fun with some lackluster drama and suspense, this is it. And I really don't want to come off like I hate this stuff, because I really don't. Yeah, so it would have been great if we knew a little bit more about each character, so when they died or when their death was implied, you could empathize with the Chief and really feel the stakes of the mission. Instead, this just feels like Saturday morning cartoons, but in the best way. Like, the scenarios and action sequences are so over the top, I can't help but smile at how charming it is. The commander and major of the Covenant fleet are so great too. They're the only ones in this story that are given any character or dynamic, but they're so simplified and their actors know this. And there are some really dope gamer moments as well, like when Chief throws the assault rifle and accepts the major's duel, igniting the energy sword. I don't know, man. It's just dumb fun, and it warms my heart with how stupid it is. But now I think it's time to address a few elephants in the room. The CGI animation looks pretty rough to today's standards. Where 2D animation can stand the test of time, 3D is a bit more complicated because, in this case, it's a blending of realism and cartoonish. I'm not an animator myself, so I can't really comment on the technicality as much as I'd like. But what I can tell you is that them faces look like rubber, and goddamn are those elite models hideous. A few other nitpicky things. I know we threw canon and logic out into the cold, vacuumless void of space a long time ago, but why does Dr. Halsey be looking like a woman instead of an old woman? I guess my boy, him, thought he'd get a lot of praise from the fandom. You guys are sick. One last thing. I don't know if it's just me, but the guy they have voicing Master Chief, David Wald, sounds like he's trying too hard to make each line sound badass.
Kelly, it's a trap. The flagship. Concentrate Gauss cannons on a single point. Let's sprint this.
Maybe it's just me, and only being able to hear Steve Downes as the voice of Master Chief makes me highly critical. Okay, so now I must come clean. Everything I've said up to this point has been filler. Everything else from here on is why I'm making this video. These last 5 stories culminate in the reasons why I love Halo Legends. Homecoming is good, but it could have been much better. Chronologically, in this film's presentation, this is the 3rd or technically 4th short story told if you separate Origins 1 and 2. Compared to them, it's a definite improvement. There's an actual story being told rather than recounting events from the Halo wiki, and we're given a central protagonist that we can care about and empathize with, unlike the package. Now, before I dive into the issues with this story, let me continue to sing its praises. For once, this story doesn't rely on you to know the extensive lore in order to tell the tale. I enjoy the Sergeant character that fights with 23 throughout. He just fits the corny, I didn't sign up for this shit mentality that some other Marines have in the Halo games.
They finally decide to give the order to pull out, and now this. Damn it, just ain't my day. Oh, damn it, just ain't my day.
And I really like the flashbacks and how they intercut with the present day events. But with that, here comes my issues. For starters, let me just say, I'm not usually a stickler of narration. I like narration, but only when it's used to tell the audience something that they wouldn't be able to discover themselves during or after watching. So why is it that this non-diegetic, disembodied voice is speaking to us for an entire minute about unnecessary backstory on the world and how, as a result, humanity created the Spartan program and enlisted the Spartan 2s? It's just annoying to me because it's an entire minute that could have been cut out and replaced with more time spent with Daisy's story. And I guess that's my biggest gripe with this short. The fact of the matter is that Daisy's flashbacks and the revelation that her life has been taken from her and can no longer return to it is such a fascinating story on its own. Yet the focus of the short is split between a psychological devastating dilemma and a gritty hopeless war epic. The only real connection between the two stories is when Daisy recognizes the voice of a guy she used to know from the program. It's a shame because if the story was centered around Daisy escaping the program and finding her way back home, the time wasted with the war plotline could have been better utilized to show more of Oni and the program And then more of Daisy coming to terms with the fact that the life she once had was gone, and she wasn't Daisy anymore, only a weapon for the UNSC. And maybe that's what they were trying to allude to, with Daisy's cold, sharp responses to the sergeant in the beginning. And then once she hears Ralph speak, it opens her eyes and makes her more desperate to reconvene with someone from her past. And also, I believe the bear is meant to reinforce and symbolize Daisy's past, and to not forget who she once was. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too far into it, but it's kind of what us film majors do. I just want so desperately for art to have some deeper meaning. Hi, my name is Zach, and I'm film guy. In short, I liked Homecoming. And if you think I hated it because I had a few issues with it, then, well, what are you doing here? Okay, so at this point, my dumb gamer brain just wants to instinctively say impulsive short statements like, "This shit is so dope, cool as fuck, and epic!" to describe these last few stories. But I'm going to attempt to relax and try to provide some well-deserved praise. Because god do I love this shit! From here on out, I literally don't have any complaints. The rest of these shorts, including The Babysitter, have to be some of the best anime I've seen in a while. The Babysitter is a story centered around a group of Helljumpers, or ODSTs, as they are tasked with a vital mission to execute a prophet of the Covenant. However, it is a shock to the squad when it's revealed that a Spartan will be joining them on this mission. Now this is where I can get into the dynamics between the ODSTs and Spartan Cal 141. We are told by the commander briefing this mission that ODSTs don't share a liking to Spartans. We are not told why, but through observing the behavior of one of the squad's members, O'Brien, we are shown. O'Brien's character at first is very unlikable. He's brash and hard-headed, unwilling to show gratitude to anyone, especially the Spartan. He continuously makes rude and snarky comments directed towards the Spartan while on the mission, and his fellow troopers basically tell him to shut the fuck up and show some professionalism. Also, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I find it kind of funny that each time O'Brien has some dumb shit to say to the Spartan, he gets no reaction out of him. Not even a head turn.
Assuming that the Spartan can make the shot, that is. Want to take the lens cap off? Knock it off, O'Brien. After all this, he better be everything they said he was.
I just find the humor in that because O'Brien is a loudmouth midget. Vertically challenged person. And that part of his character, I think, can really justify his disliking of the Spartans. O'Brien's physical stature compared to the other troops is inferior. He's scrawny and boyish. He looks like a child compared to them. That's why he takes so much pride in being the squad's best shot with a sniper. But then, compared to the Spartan, O'Brien feels helpless. He can't compete with what the genetically augmented cyborg can do. His pride and his ability as a soldier is put up for question. Stories in the Halo universe mostly revolve around the central theme of humanity, and this story is no different. O'Brien refuses to commit to the idea that he isn't as strong as the enemies he's facing, and his squad is now being led by someone or something that just single-handedly took out a brute chieftain. He doesn't see the Spartans as humans, because humans are vulnerable, and they seem untouchable. That's why once the Spartan saves O'Brien one last time and sacrifices himself, it's revealed that the Spartan is nothing more than a woman. A human woman that can be hurt in battle. A soldier. Just like O'Brien. So when she orders him to take the shot, the stunned O'Brien straightens up, slides into the Prophet's DMs, and shoots his shot. I honestly didn't expect to have this much to say about The Babysitter, but if that proves anything, then go watch this short again. It has some great moments with intense action and humanity. The Duel is fucking beautiful. Hiroshi Yamazaki and his team of artists exceeded expectations for what a Halo anime could be. It may be an acquired taste for some, but the visuals in this short are gorgeous to behold in my opinion. The unique look of the Japanese water painting style adds so much to the story. It isn't just style over substance. Senghili, or elites, are a noble race that fight with honor, like the samurai. It complements the characteristics, and with the story being set early in the Covenant's regime, the choice to take inspiration from ancient Japan culture was fully realized, and it benefited the story it wished to tell. The Duel follows the tale of... Fuck, I gotta look that up now. Shit. Can't believe I'm looking this up. Oh my god, just say the name. Come on. Come on. That's how you say it? Shadami? Shavami? Fel Shavami. I'm just gonna say Fel Shavami. The duel follows the tale of Fel Shavami, an arbiter of the Covenant and a general to the Sangheili government, who refuses to submit himself to the Prophet's foretold great journey. Through flashbacks, we are shown that he believes it to be a lie, and disclaims his views to one of the High Prophets. Then we are introduced to Han, Fel's wife. Fel wants her to leave for the time being for her safety, but she refuses, stating that she is his wife and she wishes to stay by his side. Cut to Fel training the elites of Sanghelios when his close friend Ro pulls him aside and confronts him about his heresy. Ro says that he will be stripped of his rank, but Fel isn't concerned as he believes there is no rank without honor. He claims that the elites used to be strong without the use of the Covenant, but since joining forces, they become weak as they now strive for power instead of honor. Ro pleads with Fel, but to no avail as he has already accepted their challenge and will be ready for whatever price he must pay. However, that price is the death of his friend and his wife. Now it's time for the good shit. I honestly don't know how to break this down accurately, so I'm going to try my best. The story is told non-linearly, so as we see events play out in the present, it cuts to flashbacks giving context and emotional impact to what's happening. So in the very beginning of the short, we see Fel single-handedly execute a group of Sangheili warriors in battle. As the viewer watches this for the first time, we don't know the purpose for the fight until later when it's revealed that it's Hakka's men. I'll talk about him soon, but I bring this up because by the time we get to the epic battle between the Arbiter and an army of the Covenant, we realize why this is happening and what it means for the character of Fel. Before I continue, let me just say this fight scene is amazing. Yasuharu Takanashi composed some new and brilliant pieces of music for this fight, and the short as a whole. The cinematography is gorgeous and the action is so viscerally intense. Also, I love this part.
He's a demon!
But back to what I was saying. By this point, we know how tragic the Arbiter's tale is. All his life, he strived for honor and to uphold that honor for the rest of his people. But they've now turned on him because they view him as a heretic. So now, after the death of his wife, he's entered the path of no return and tarnishes his honor. He brutally slaughters any being in his way to reach his wife's killer, Hakka, who is the embodiment of everything Fel fears the elites could become under the Prophet's rule. And finally, the Arbiter's journey leads him to Hakka. They face off, two warriors with differing ideals, one for honor and nobility, and the other for power and succession. And that's the most tragic part of this entire story. The elites lost their way, and only the Arbiter, not blinded or corrupted by the lust for power, was the only one to see the truth in the Prophet's lies. And yet, he dies a vengeful death, and shamed the rank of Arbiter for centuries. Please go check this out if you haven't already, and if you have, just watch it again. It's really good. Prototype is a story about humanity and what do we become if we lose sight of what makes us human. Besides Marines pinned down by an army of Covenant and a badass machine saving the day, this is a story that doesn't even need to be a Halo story to be good. It's great on its own grounds. It opens with our protagonist Ghost, as he cradles the last breathing soldier from his platoon. Corpses scattered around them, blood paints the grass, and moonlight shines on her. She tries her best to reconcile his humanity. Ghost was notorious for being just that, a ghost. He was cold and unempathetic. He never took his troops' lives into consideration when in battle. And after sentencing his platoon to death on that fateful night, some part of him died with them. 3 years later, a battle is raging on the grounds of planet Algolis. The remaining Marines do what they can to hold off the Covenant, but they are outnumbered. The shuttle that was meant to evacuate the citizens residing on the planet has been devastatingly blown to pieces. Then it's recognized by one of the Marines that Ghost is in charge of the demolition squad, and they aren't leaving until the remains of some weapon is destroyed. Cut to the troops of Ghost's squad, as they complain about being doomed from the very start of this assignment, because they believe Ghost will just let them die to complete their mission, because he's not human. Suddenly, an explosion combusts directly within inches of their cover, and they are sent flying backwards. One of the Marines exclaims that they can't believe they were left behind to die. Then, crashing through the roof of the research facility, the prototype Mjolnir mech suit soars across the sky, and Ghost, inside the mech suit, begins to fight off the army of Covenant, buying his men enough time to evacuate the planet. The UNSC wasn't going to save these men. They never planned to. That's why they left them behind with Ghost. But Ghost, after losing a part of himself on his last mission, decides he's not letting another Marine die by his hands. That brutal night, as he watched this young, brave soldier exhaust her last breath, something died inside him. His humanity was lost long ago. That's why I believe it was Ghost that died that night. The pure, heartless soldier within him died. So after fighting off as many Covenant as he can, he uses the time he has left to feel something again, and sacrifices himself to save his men. But his time eventually runs out, and while losing great volumes of blood and barely being able to stand up, he's prompted with the voice authorization to activate the self-destruction of the suit. And after recalling the last night once more, he looks up and smiles, accepting within this fleeting moment, he's human again. Like I said, this story, if you take out all the Halo elements, isn't a Halo story. And I mean that in the best way possible. It's about a man who cuts off all feelings and sacrifices his people in the process. And with this burden he now must bear, he vows to save his men at all costs, no longer thinking like a programmed machine. It's just a very deeply human story with a thought-provoking concept and message about the consequences we may face if we forget what makes us human. This story resonates with me so much, and that's why it's my favorite story from Halo Legends. Just kidding. I can't hold it back any longer. This shit is so dope! This epic! It takes all the camp and goofy charm from the Halo games and amps it up to hell. With the same animation studio that created Dragon Ball Z, the visuals and action sequences are so energetic and entertaining to watch. There's no deeper meanings or philosophy involved in the storytelling. It simply follows the #1 rule of anime.
Let's talk more action!
It's an absolute joyride from start to finish. So much so, I never wanted it to end. I think out of all the stories told in Halo Legends, I've watched Odd One Out the most for its sheer entertainment value. And most of that can be attributed to the character of Spartan 1337. The short opens with an establishing shot of a UNSC flagship, with the Halo theme blissfully playing. We're meant to believe this will be just another ordinary story in the Halo universe we've come to expect from this movie up till now. Then, this idea is juxtaposed when we see a Spartan fall from the sky, and we're told that he slipped and fell.
What? He slipped and fell.
Perfectly conveying the goofy tone for the rest of this short, as Spartan 1337 dusts himself off. And it's at this moment when I must say, Spartan 1337 has to be one of my favorite characters in all of the Halo universe, maybe even rivaling the Master Chief. The writing in this short is fantastic. It's so witty and humorous, I was chuckling the entire time. Everything is played off as a complete joke. 1337 literally introduces himself in the most prideful and cocky way imaginable, and then verbally expresses his disappointment when the natives aren't impressed.
Hey, look at that! It's the junky old robot they found!
I am not some junky robot. Even if you don't want to know, I'll tell you who I am. I am one of the strongest warriors in space. I am Spartan 1337.
I wouldn't stand there if I were you.
It's not very safe.
How dare they ignore my awesome heroism?
Then he's chewed up and stomped on by a pet dinosaur. And then we're shown a prophet as he releases a new genetically enhanced brute named Pluton to defeat the Spartan that just crashed on the planet. And the exchange between the prophet and Pluton is so silly and over the top. I just love this short so much.
I will get you at long last, Master Chief. Now go, Pluton! Not go destroy them! No, not over here! He's over that way! He's over there! Don't harm me. Go that way. I need a vacation.
Once Pluton crash lands on the planet, they have an epic fight with 1337 losing by Pluton's nuclear blast. But probably my favorite part of this entire short is when the storm clears and 1337 gives himself a heroic pep talk and literally tells the audience what makes him such an entertaining character to watch.
I'm not gonna lose. No way can I lose. I am Spartan 1337. No one else will say it, so I will. The fact that I never give up is one of my good points!
The writers did a fantastic job of giving the audience a lovable hero that may not be the greatest soldier in the galaxy, but he thinks he is, and that's what matters most. So then they have another epic fight with lines like,
I'm one heck of a mama myself! I did it. I did it!
We're totally screwed.
What else can we do? We're doomed.
Look out, Jesus!
Just kidding.
But the siblings in 1337 are no match for Pluton. So Mama, this ancient AI resigned on this planet, decides to finally jump in and blast the motherfucker into space. Then we close with all the kids going home to their mama and 1337 being swept away by a pterodactyl. So yes, this story is weird and ridiculous, but the writing is too brilliant and the action is so exciting that I can't help but love it all. And some of you might be saying, well, why do you like this, but you don't like the package? And that's because the package gives us no characters that can give us a reason to care or want to watch them succeed. And it's a much more tame story in comparison. But regardless, my rankings don't even matter, because there are some days when I believe Prototype to be my favorite Halo Legends story, but today, I'm feeling like some kick-ass action with some well-written comedic dialogue, and most importantly, this story just makes me want to see more of this lovable, wannabe badass, Spartan 1337. This was my first experience doing a retrospective, analytical video essay or whatever, so I hope it was at least enjoyable. After hearing me ramble on for far too long, if you don't want to watch this movie by now, I don't know what else to tell you. It might not be the greatest anime ever created, but damn is it a good watch with a variety of stories to tell. This was one of the first movies I can ever remember truly opening my eyes to the potential of cinema, and for that reason, it is very personal to me. I don't mean to get all pretentious, but if we would look back on our lives and what we valued when we were younger, I think we can begin to see what tremendous impact those moments had on our lives and who we are now. It doesn't matter if it's old video games, movies, sports, or friends we used to have. Looking back on your past like this can help you realize who you are and what you were meant to do. Thanks for watching.